You're there, and of course, here's cornfields, cornfields and all that, but there was tobacco fields, where ours was. This reminds me so much of my old grandma, my grandma's church, and everything, old wooden benches, and just the floors, the floors, and the pot belly stove. I love that old pot belly stove back there. Boy, I remember we used to keep the church warm, with that thing. And what's really neat is in the summer, when it's hot, hot, and you put these windows up, and wasp come flying in the middle. And anytime, buddy, I wasn't paying attention to the preacher. I was dodging wasps. But this reminds me so much of the old church. And I remember when I was called to preach. God called me to preach. And I was at a Sword Lord conference. And God called me to preach. And I'll never forget, the first sermon, first time I ever preached, when I got back, I went down in a cow pasture. And I'm not kidding, preacher, a cow pasture. Went out in the cow pasture, got up on the old cut-off stump there, stood up on that old cut-off stump, and I preached to a bunch of cows. And we have several saved. It's kind of rough baptizing them, but we and some of you remind me of that congregation. But anyway, I remember my grandma, she would let me go to her old church. I remember I'd get up in that old church by myself, and I would preach. And I just stand in there by myself, preach like there's 1,000 people in that church, and I'd preach my heart out, preach by myself. My grandma let me go in that church and preach. And this reminds me so much of it and everything. And outdoor bathrooms, I found it back there, amen. I didn't find the bathroom, but I found the woods. Can I have that? But it's such a blessing to be here, and I've enjoyed being here this morning and today, and looking forward to what God's going to do. I've been preaching 42 years now, and boy, I tell you what, you're going to have some of the craziest things in the world happen when you preach, and I think about 3 years, and I'm glad the preacher took me out to eat today, and at Subway, and I'm glad he took me there. I learned a long time ago, it's not good to eat a big meal before you preach.
Yes, sir.
I learned that. Matter of fact, I remember years ago, this is my years ago, when I first got married, I was preaching at a church in Rockwood, North Carolina, right near my home. And that night, my mom, she cooked a big old meal for us. We had fried pork. I can remember exactly what it was. Fried pork chops, collard greens, potatoes, and fried cornbread.
Yeah, man.
Fried cornbread. Folks, you talking about something, make you slap your grandma. So and I figured out that night. Well, I got up to preach that night, and right in the middle of the message, I went to let out a big yell, and it wasn't a yell. But it was a bell, and it was the loudest bell. It wasn't a little bell, it wasn't it was it just came back, and well, everybody stared at me like, you couldn't act like it didn't happen. And they just stared at me, and well, you know how pastors' wives are. They're so supportive sometimes. Well, my wife was sitting there, and everybody's just staring at me, and I'm I'm staring at them like, I can't believe this just happened. And all of a sudden, my wife just bust out laughing. I mean, just bust out laughing. And the pastor, he'd been preaching a lot longer than me, you know. He's sitting on the front row. So I looked at him while everybody's laughing at me. I looked at him, I said, Pastor, you ever had that happen before? He said, no. But you know, when you're in the ministry long as I am, you have the crazy thing. Hey, this is one time I was baptized, and I took this lady down, preacher, took her down to baptize her. And when I went to bring her back up, she didn't come up. She didn't come up. And I mean, she was still down in the water, and I had a wet wig in my hand. So I reached down real quick, grabbed her, yanked her up, you know, well, she was drinking, you know, and she was joking and everything. So I got her up, then I tried to put the wig back. But it worked, amen. It's just crazy state, amen. Hey, I was preaching that I love this talking right now. Hey, it's so good, church. You amen. I was preaching at a nursing home one time, and I took my teenagers. You know, the older people love to hear young people sing and all that. Well, after they got done singing, I was standing behind a podium like this, and I was preaching, you know, bringing a message to the older folks there. Well, about that time while I was preaching, I heard something hit the floor, and it slid right in front of my podium. Well, I just kept preaching. I kept preaching. You know, we were talking about don't let things distract you. Just keep preaching. Just keep preaching, you know.
Right.
But I'm preaching away. Well, my teenagers, they're snickering and laughing. And they're pointing. They're laughing and pointing. Well, I just kept preaching, and I just went right around there just like I was always taught. Don't let things distract you. And I was preaching away. And I looked down, when I got beside the pulpit, I looked, there was a set of false teeth grinning at me. Some old lady's false teeth was falling out of her mouth. They slid right over in front of the pulpit. Well, I just kept preaching. I kept preaching. I mean, they're sitting there grinning at me, you know, and so I kept preaching. Well, I just walked around, didn't miss a lick, kept preaching. Reached down, picked those teeth up, went over, walked over where that lady was, and she just opened her mouth wide open. I plugged her back here. Hey, just kept preaching, amen. I hope everybody's got their collar here tonight. But, oh my goodness, I've had a good time, amen, and I'm through the year. You just laugh and go on, amen. Keep preaching, but I tell you, I love old-fashioned preaching. I love old-fashioned singing. Amen. I love the old black book. Amen. Bible way. And you know, hey, folks, let me tell you something. This old shotgun right here still works. I said the old shotgun still works. This is the old King James Bible. Hey, let me tell you something. When I was a boy, I'll get into preaching in a minute. Amen. This is preaching. Amen. When I was a boy, hey, I had an old 20 gauge shotgun. I still got that old shotgun. I've taken electrical tape to hold the wood and stuff on the shotgun. And still, matter of fact, it was World War II. And I didn't want him living in my house. Amen. And I took care of it. And I'm sorry if all you animals love it. Amen. I take that old shotgun and go squirrel hunting all the time. I mean, we could hunt, squirrel hunt, did all that growing up. And my daddy bought me a brand new 22 single shot rifle. And boy, that thing was perfect. I mean, beautiful, shiny, pretty, everything. And let me tell you what happened. I went down where went squirrel hunting, and he bought me a box of shells for $500. That's back when you could fight by them about that. They didn't, thanks to Obama, we can't now. But anyway, and so I went and bought, I took those shells down there, and all of a sudden I spotted a squirrel chatter. He's up there laughing at the chatter now, you know. Oh, yeah. So I took that pretty, shiny 22 rifle, and I aimed up at him just like that. I said, I'm going to get you. And about that time, that thing went, pew! It had no kick, you know. Didn't have nothing like that on 20-gauge shotgun there, you know. Had no kick, nothing to it. Well, about a half a box later, that squirrel still running. And I got fed up. I got fed up with it. And I said, you stay right there. I got something for you. And I went back, got that old, ugly, bent up, scratched up, beat up, 20-gauge, wrapped up and left it. Okay, and I went back, got that 20-gauge shotgun, and I came back, and there he was laughing at me, shattered at me, you know. And I said, and I went up there and I laid that shotgun right on him. Amen. And buddy, I just aimed around. I mean, you just about aim around him. And buddy, that thing went boom! It blew fur everywhere. And buddy, you know what I'm trying to say? They come out with all these pretty versions today, and all them nice conversions look nice. But but this old Papa beat up DJ Pike will still blow the fur out of the devil. It still works. It still works. Amen. Hey, the old King James Bible. Thank God for it. Amen. And I want to be a help to you tonight. It's been a good day already. People say this.